After playing more than 50 hours of Enshrouded leading up to its early access release, I put together 15 tips and tricks to help you get started. Before we get started, 2 obvious tips that are not included in the 15 are to always carry a torch and make sure to repair your weapons and tools at your workbench before heading out of your base. First up is to increase the comfort level of your house, and you can do that by placing down specific items. So I'm in the workbench here, and you'll notice that under the comfort section, there's beds, tables, fireplaces, chairs, benches, and illumination. Each one of these will tell you how much comfort it's going to add, and what you're going to want to do is maximize this as quickly as possible because that's going to give you a better rest buff, which is going to be tip number 2. Second tip is going to be to make sure you always have a rest buff. You get that by sitting either near a campfire or by being inside of your house. You'll notice here that I have a pretty high rest buff right now. It's actually 25 minutes because this is my character that I have the 50 hours in right now. If I max it out, it'll actually be 30 minutes. You can actually get it higher than that. At the beginning of the game, it's going to be much lower, but having the rest buff is going to be huge because what it does is it's going to give you better stamina and health regeneration. Third tip is going to be to make sure you're upgrading your flame as quickly as possible. So you do that by going up to it and communing with it. When you commune with it, you're going to have the option to upgrade, strengthen, or reset your skill points. We're going to click on the strengthen the flame. This is a new world I created because I didn't want to kind of spoil anything because my other world, the flame is actually upgraded pretty high. So you'll notice here what you're going to have to do is collect these resources. And when you strengthen the flame, it's going to increase the altar capacity. So by default, you only can place 2 altars. When you upgrade it the first time, you'll get 4. You also have a Shroud Passage level that'll get upgraded. That's going to allow you to pass through more deadly Shroud clouds. So if later on in the game you get to a point where it says there's a deadly Shroud, more likely than not, you just have to upgrade, strengthen your flame, and you'll probably be able to get through it. Character attribute bonuses will be multipliers that are affected by the skill points you choose, and the time in the Shroud will also be upgraded. The upgrades are going to be generally using resources that are found, like the first one's going to be resources you're going to find pretty early on, and then the further along you progress through the game, the further along you're going to have to explore to be able to find the resources in order to upgrade your flame level. The next tip is going to be more specifically for when you're starting out, but one thing you should always carry with you when you're first starting out is going to be a campfire. The reason for that is a campfire can provide you with a rested buff and also provide a light source early on in the game before you have really good rested buff. So right now, because I have such a high rested buff because my level's so hot, or my base was so high on my main save, I don't really have to worry about it. But early on in the game, when you're running around cutting trees down and stuff like that, and you're just exploring and fighting and just working your way through the world, having that campfire to set down just to be able to reset your rested buff is going to definitely be huge and help out a lot. In addition to that, something you definitely want to make sure you have throughout the game is going to be some type of ranged weapon. I would normally go with a bow. So you want to make sure you have a bow and an arrow as you're playing through the game. You can use the magic, like specifically the two-handed, the staves, can shoot projectiles, but to me, it's much easier just to have a bow. And the reason you're going to have that is there's 2 reasons, honestly. One is going to be there's going to be puzzles you're going to need to solve where you won't be able to reach them, so you're going to actually have to use a projectile to hit them, and a bow and arrow is going to be the best way of doing that. Secondly, there might be situations where there's a lot of enemies and you just kind of want to take them out from above, or maybe you want to shoot one of the exploding barrels that's in the world, and you're going to need to do that using a ranged weapon, because if you do it with melee, you're going to probably end up killing yourself. Next up is to always make sure that you carry lockpicks. The reason you want to carry lockpicks is there are going to be locked doors and chests as you explore through the world of Enshrouded. There's nothing worse than getting to a point when you're following along a quest line and finding out that there's a locked door and you don't have a lockpick. You can easily craft these yourself, or you can use the blacksmith to craft them for half the cost. All they cost is scrap metal, so make sure I typically carry between 5 and 10 of them, and I make sure when I go back to my base that I pick them up. One thing I've noticed, I'm 99% sure that if you end up dying, these are one of the items that gets dropped on your body, so you won't have them with you, so just be mindful of that. So as you're exploring, you're going to come across lots of things that are destructible. In fact, pretty much the entire world's destructible. But when you come across items like maybe this cart right here, so I hit this cart, it's going to give me wood. If I hit this little package looking thing here, you're going to notice it's going to drop a different resource. In this case, it dropped me some torn cloth. This one's also going to drop some string and some torn cloth, sometimes water. Most objects are going to be destructible. Perhaps you might not have the right weapon to break them at the time, but it's definitely worth breaking everything because you'll get lots of resources from doing that. So another thing, I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but it is currently in the game as I'm recording this. Things respawn when you break them, specifically like objects that are in the world. The ground, if you mess around with the terrain or terraform the terrain, that should not respawn. But you'll see here, I just broke these, reloaded the save, and came back in here, and all the things I just broke are back, and I can get the resources again. This is really can be helpful for getting lots of resources. Again, I don't know if this is intended or not, so you might just want to take advantage of it. There's going to be some towers that you go to that you'll basically be told to go find. There's one you can see off in the distance. Those will have containers in them. They're like urns, and you can break those. I generally use my pickaxe to break them, although you can use a melee weapon. Those will usually have resources in them as well. And fast traveling around to the different waypoints that are, because you can fast travel to those, will allow you to just gather lots and lots of resources pretty quickly. So earlier I mentioned that you can place a specific number of flame altars, and right now I have just, this is the fresh world that I started for this video, and I have the flame altar placed here. As you can see right now, when I go into this, it's going to tell me that the maximum number of altars I can place is 2. Again, as you strengthen your flame, you'll be able to place more and more altars. I think the maximum is probably going to be like 9 or 10 right now. I'm not exactly sure what the total number is. I think I have where I can place up to 8 of them on my main save. So as you explore through the vast lands here, again, you'll be able to fast travel to those giant towers over there, but those are going to be the only fast travel points in the world. So if you want to have kind of fast travel points in between, I recommend setting up the flame altars. As you're exploring through the world, you can always take them down as well. If you go up to them and hit extinguish flame, it'll actually take them, remove them. So you can kind of just place them out. So maybe I'm heading over to that tower over there, and I want to set up a fast travel point in between. I can do that. It's really good for setting up, like maybe you're in a situation where you've kind of like stocked up completely on resources and you just want to head back so you don't lose anything, or you just want to make it faster to get back and forth between places before you get all those waypoints set up. So definitely make sure you place down as many flame altars as possible. You can also build them up as well. You can use them just for fast travel, or you can kind of build them up so you can just have multiple bases around the world, providing you extra comfort. So one thing you'll notice as you're playing through Enshrouded is a lot of times when you're told to go to places, you're going to be told there's going to be roads that are basically going to take you to the POI. So if I follow this road here, it's going to take me to this POI. What I would recommend doing is obviously following the roads to the POIs, but don't be afraid to branch off and just kind of explore out into the wild. And I'm not going to show you any places right now because I don't want to spoil it, but I will say more often than not, this game feels really like kind of like an old school RPG or well-designed RPG, where when you wander off the path, there's usually something to find. There might be a cave, there might be a little house that's off the beaten path, there might just be some resources hidden back there, maybe some enemies or even a treasure chest or something like that. So don't be afraid to explore off the beaten path. And when you do so, make sure you break things. So along the same lines is going to be, you'll notice there's rubble here. So a lot of times you're going to find rubble in specific locations. If you destroy all the rubble, there's a chance there might be a chest hidden underneath of it. There's going to be structures like this scattered throughout the world that look like there's kind of abandoned. Make sure you break those. If you have the ability to, dig out the rubble, because more often than not, there's either going to be a chest underneath of it, or there might just be like a hidden little dungeon under there. Next up is going to be to make sure you read the lore. So as you're exploring through the world, you're going to come across different items, usually books or sometimes scrolls, or maybe it might just be like an object in the world. It'll usually be glowing red, and it's going to have lore. Now, they don't always provide useful information, but many times they'll be very helpful, especially if they're part of a quest line. They might tell you where to look for something, like maybe it's saying to go find the item, and it might tell you where that item might be located. It might also tell you what type of enemies to expect or what to expect as you're progressing through it. So the lore is actually really well written, and it's a pretty decent story. Generally in video games, I don't like reading, but reading the lore in this game has definitely been helpful in terms of being able to just figure out what I need to do next and just kind of guiding me along the way. Next tip is going to be, there's going to be wells like this around the world. I recommend, since it's telling you to build a base right at the beginning here in the spawn area, this is just to the, I guess, the left of the base or the west of it. This well's going to be here. You can scoop water from this, and it should give me 5 water because I've not grabbed anything from it. This well will give up to 5 water a day, and I believe the maximum, let's see if it gives me 5 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it should give me a maximum, since I've never collected from it, of 15. Well, you have to actually be 3 days in game. I think this world only has 2 days in it. But these wells, the ones that are spawned in the world, will give you 5 water a day, and they'll hold up to a maximum of 15. So if you come across them, make sure to scoop all the water out. You can also place your own wells down later on. They will not be able to have as much water, but you can get water from them every day. So water should never really be an issue for you. Next is going to be a combat tip, and that's going to be learn how to parry. So I'm going to see if I can parry this guy. So basically, if you parry, I did not parry properly there. If you parry, what it'll do is it has a chance to stun the enemy like that, and then you can kill him. Now, this guy's a level 1, so he's going to get 1 hit anyway. You're going to definitely need to learn how to parry when you're fighting tougher enemies, because if you sit there and just try to face tank it, a lot of times what will happen is they'll actually hit you through your blocking because you won't have enough blocking power. But even if you do have enough blocking power, it's just definitely beneficial to parry like I did there. And the reason you want to do that is because, like I said, it has a chance to stun them. When they're stunned, they won't be able to defend themselves, and you'll do more damage to them. And then last but not least is going to be one of the skills in the skill tree that I 100% recommend, no matter which path you take as you're playing through the game. I 100% recommend everybody get the double jump skill. There's going to be some other skills that might be useful for everybody, but double jump is really useful. The reason for that is the regular jump's this high, but if we double jump, what double jumping lets you do is it'll often let you reach places that you normally would not be able to reach, and it'll often get you out of trouble. So like maybe I'm running up here and there's an enemy chasing me that I'm going to have trouble fighting. So if I only be able to single jump, I can't get away. If I double jump, I can get up on top of this wall pretty easily. And it just lets you get to much higher places much faster. So it makes exploring much faster, especially if you're trying to traverse like a mountainous area and there's not an easy way through it. And also, like I said, to get to high places, because maybe there's a chest up somewhere where there's usually going to be a way to get up there, but it's not always obvious how to get up there. So that's 15 things I wish I knew when I started playing Enshrouded that will hopefully help you along your journey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.